All right, so next thing we're going to learn about is Semantic HTML. And if you're just catching this video online, you can find all the code at GitHub goes to 11. Go into my repositories and look for my HTML CSS Bootcamp repository and star it so it moves to the top and people find it more easily. And if you would like, learning about creating websites, I'm always talking about that at my Twitter account, so follow me on Twitter. And then also, if you want to find the videos that we're creating, go to YouTube, Greater Commons, and that's for my HTML and CSS videos. And if you want to do back-end web dev, you could go to YouTube, Todd McLeod. So Greater Commons is front-end, and Todd McLeod is back-end. And then the last thing I'll point out is I'm building this really cool website with some friends, Greater Commons. It's going to launch soon. Check it out. It's a place where it allows you to earn money by teaching and also to learn new skills and then get jobs. We connect you with employers. So it's an awesome site which we're launching soon. Check it out. What we're going to learn here is about structuring our document. So we have the holy trinity of web programming, and that is your HTML, your CSS, and your JavaScript. But then you're going to need some back-end language. So the best stack, which I would choose today, would be HTML, CSS, minimal JavaScript, so just plain old vanilla JavaScript, and the Go programming language, and maybe a framework called Goa, G-O-A for the Go programming language. That would be the stack I'd look into. Go as a maybe, but HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and the Go programming language created by Google to do what Google does, which is websites at scale, that's what I would choose. And if you're thinking about JavaScript, you should always check out Vanilla JavaScript, Vanilla.js. So Vanilla.js is a really cool site, and it just talks about how you don't need to use jQuery, right? Vanilla.js is just like so much better, just straight up old school JavaScript when you look at performance and things like that. It's the best way to do it. All right, so we're going to talk about HTML here and document structure. And HTML is for structuring your document, and you should use semantic HTML. So semantics are meaning, right? Semantic is the study of meaning. Like if we look up this word, and we saw it before, semantic define, we have relating to meaning in language or logic. So semantic tags are tags which convey meaning. So instead of just using divs all the time, we would want to use some tags like this. Header instead of a div. Or nav, this is my nav area. Or this is the main area for this web page. Right? This is the main content. Or this is an article, or it's a section. And so an article, can stand on its own, just like an article in a newspaper. If somebody cut an article out of a newspaper and is blown along the street and you picked it up, you could read it. It could stand on its own. But a section in that article could not. Right? If somebody cut a little section out, like, you'd be like, well, where's the rest of the article? So an article could have sections. But at the same time, we talk about newspapers having sections. So the newspaper analogy is the best way to understand the difference between article and section. So you have the weekend section. You've got the front page, the main section A, right, where it has all the main articles. You might have the world section, and you have these different sections, and each section has a bunch of articles. So it's a little bit confusing, the difference between the two. But the main definition is an article can stand on its own, and an article can have sections in it, and also a section can have a lot of articles in it. Okay, so like just think of the newspaper, right? Like a section, the weekend section has a bunch of articles. Each article could have sections inside of it. There are sections of that article. And then we have an aside, which is like, just kind of like, something to the side. It's tangentially related to the content. So an article could have an aside. And so here's an article about, hunger, and you could have an aside that says, by the way, the World Bank has been working on this issue and is accepting donations, or something like that. And so you could have a side, you could have a footer. H1 through H6 is for structuring the outline of your document, H1 through H6. So you're signaling to search engines and to screen readers and to people with accessibility issues, and also just to users visually, right? What is of most important? And so instead of just again using a div and formatting that thing, by giving it an ID or a class, we're talking about semantic HTML, right? We would say this is H1, this is H2. So you really want to lean on the H1 through H6 for giving your document structure in the outline. A figure and a fig caption go together. They make sense, right? And then an address would be for an address. And so those are some of the semantic tags. And you have to learn this stuff because, document structure, I don't know. Here's my little spiel on that. Creating software is both it's a craft. And like any craft, there's an element of, technical knowledge and an element of creative ability and art. And so the craft is to be the technical knowledge requires technical precision. And you have to be precise. And the more precise you are, the better quality product you'll produce. You get a crappy car, they just put a bolt on. You get a BMW, they have a very specific bolt for each situation, tightened to a very specific tensile strength or something like that, right? Like, it's a better quality product. They've used the right thing in the right place. And that's what we want to do when we build web pages, use the right elements in the right place. And the better our code is, my theory is the better you rank in search engines. That's something that, search engines look for, that Google looks for. How well did you write your code? Is it mass-generated crap, or is this really nicely crafted, put together by people who care, done well, helps us understand it kind of code? So good document structure also, lends itself to being more maintainable, more readable, more accessible, and then increases search engine ranks, my theory. And so some document structure terminology. We've already talked about semantic HTML. There's structure versus layout. So structure is like I'm structuring the content. Layout is I'm now arranging how it appears on the page, right? Does that make sense? So the HTML provides the structure, and then we go in with the CSS and we arrange it and create the layout, how it looks on the page. And then we've already learned about the document object model. So that is the best way to understand that. It's the model of the objects on the document. Model of the objects on the document. And so you have your document, and you have your root element, HTML, and and these have this model of objects on the document. That's your DOM, document object model. Document flow, you'll hear about that. We're just learning terminology. Everything on a web page is a block or an inline element. Inline elements are going to stack on a line one after another. Blocks are going to stack on top of each other and take up the entire width. And so that's the document flow, like Tetris, just these different blocks falling on top of each other and stacking down the page. You could take things out of the document flow. When we do position fixed top 0, left 0, we're pinning something to the top left corner. We're taking it out of the document flow, and it's above everything. Positioning things with float also does that. I've been debating whether or not to teach you float, because float, I think we'll take a quick look at it, but float used to really be leaned on for layout, but today you should be using Flexbox. But I'll teach you a little float just so you have some familiarity with it and you know where to come back to look to learn more. So there are the elements and the tags. So that's an overview of this section of what we're going to learn with document structure. So there's the terminology, default, display, how they stack up and line up on the page. Here's some text. So now we're just going to dive into this a little bit more deeply, and we're going to do this until I think of some exercise I want to give you, and then I'll give you an exercise and you'll work on it. So how they stack up and line up on the page, document flow, right? We have block level or inline elements. Everybody's got that, right? I change my voice every now and then just to wake you up. That's good teaching and good performance. I don't know if you've ever noticed Al Pacino when he talks. You like Al Pacino? No? Dude, have you guys seen the movie Heat? Heat's a great movie. How many people have seen Heat? Nobody? Al Pacino and Robert De Niro? And Val Kilmer? Very nice. But Al Pacino does that, you know. He'll be like, there's a line in that movie that always stands out to me. It was like he's talking with an informant, and the informant's like, man, I could get killed for telling you stuff. And Al Pacino's like, get killed walking your doggy. Get killed walking your doggy. Change the pace. Arrangement of page elements is defined by positioning statements, and the order of HTML statements says how the different elements take up space and arrange themselves around each other. How a page is presented when you do nothing to it with regard to structural styling. Browser display content in the order that it's encountered. Top stuff first, preceding content lower down. The normal way that the elements will display is they're written in the HTML file, which, as you know, is from top to bottom, as in block level elements take up the entire width of the page, and the next element coming after it within the document then gets displayed beneath it, and so on and so forth. So when he says it removes it from the normal document flow, it's like, okay, think of it like this. Aside from inline elements, all of the elements stack on top of each other. Well, instead of stacking on top of each other, I like to think of an HTML doc as one big Tetris game. Is there anybody who doesn't know now, like when I say document flow, you can't be like, oh, I know what document flow is. You need a visual, raise your hand, of document flow. Who needs a visual? Nobody? Robert's going to humor me. All right. Give me a block level element. Let's use semantic tags. I'm creating a web page. I'm going to have my head, and then I might have my main, and then I might have an article, and inside that article I might have some section, right? And maybe I have here heading 1. Should that be here or here for the article? Right? Where should it be? Above it? Isn't the heading for an article inside the article? Those are the questions you have to think about. And we'll see if we can find that answer. Right? So there's an article with some sections. And then I maybe just have something with a div. And in my article here, I might include a side. And here's a div. And then inside there, I might have an anchor tag. And an image. And do I have any images? Images up here. I have to go up to pup. So go up a level, and I am in 009. Go up another level. I'm in 00temp. Go up a level. I should be able to come down into image, and then go down into pup. And then div. And then I could have all that outside the div. Could have a break here. And then I could have another footer. And now let's format some of this stuff. So head, main, article, H1, section, aside.
Should it be header?
Thank you. Bam. Bam. Oh, it's not what I want. Aside. And maybe in this aside I'd have H2. Okay. And I put this inside a paragraph. Content padding, border, margin. Box sizing, border box. And let's just see what, and we could just put a border around everything. Head, Heading of article, section 1. Holy cow, we're in section 2. So what's that tell you about H2? H2 a block level element or inline level element? Huh? Is block level, right? Even when I had text on each side of it, put this on its own line all by itself. Took up a whole block level. Block level. But if SDAS is inline, text is inline, so if I put more text there, just lines it up inline. And here I had anchor tag is inline, right? There's the anchor tag, and image is inline. There's the image, right? So those are inline level elements. But then the footer is in a block all by itself, block level. This div here is a block by itself. These inline elements weren't inside any block level element, but because they're between block level elements, they kind of, each block level element on the top and bottom took up a whole line. So those just got stuck on between. And then if I did something like that's no longer in the normal document flow. Okay, so document flow, like a Tetris game, just chunk, 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 one after another, just putting them on the page, block level inline. And then outside of document flow, position fixed, I don't care what everything else doing, I'm just sticking this over there. That's document flow. And outside document flow. How many people that helped you? All right, cool. Good thing Robert spoke up. When I was in graduate school, I'd sometimes be like, I don't get it. Teacher would be like, blah, 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 blah. Does that make sense? Still not getting it. Blah, 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 blah. Okay? No, maybe I'm just dense. I'm not seeing it. Come see me in office hours. Okay. And then after, I'd be like, is anybody else getting it? Nobody would say anything. And then after class, I'd have students come out and be like, man, thanks so much for the way you ask questions, because I totally wasn't getting that either. Why didn't you say you weren't getting it? So now you know document flow. Content sectioning, content categories. So this is like, if we look at the HTML element reference, we have content sectioning. Right? Content sectioning elements allow you to organize the document content into logical pieces. Use the sectioning elements to create a broad outline for your page content, including header and footer, navigation, and heading elements to identify sections of content. So that's like the header, footer, H1 through H6, aside, the ones I just showed you. And then, let's see, it's a content sectioning and then content categories. Let's see what the content categories are. This is interesting. So that's content sectioning. And then we have content categories. So if we look at like main, so main is like text. Main element represents the main content of body. I don't know why that's not up in content sectioning. But yeah, heck, we'll look at main. And we look at main, and then there's this deal here, which is MDN, and it says content categories, flow content, palpable content, permitted content, flow content. So it is a member of content category flow content, and the permitted content is flow content. Permitted parents, any element that accepts flow content other than article, aside, footer, header, or nav. So I can never use main inside article, right? Article cannot be a parent to main. It could be any flow content other than article, aside, footer, header, or nav. Body as a parent is fine. So I bet as flow content, in the flow content category, body has to be one of the parents. So what are these categories? If you look at these categories, content categories, you get this wacky looking graph. Flow. Everything is flow content. Big Venn diagram, right? And then we have metadata. Some metadata is not flow content. And then we have sectioning stuff. And was that what we were just looking at here? It's flow content. Anything that's flow content, right? So flow content, if we scroll down, here are all the tags which are considered flow content. Elements belonging to flow content category typically contain text or embedded content. So we can look and we can see main right there. And main can contain any other flow content, but it cannot have a parent that is one of these. So you could read about stuff. Article, any element that accepts flow content can be its parent. Note that an article element must not be a descendant of an address element. So article can't have parent as an address as a parent. So you're starting to learn to read the documentation a little bit and just seeing what that stuff is and what could belong where. So where can we put like an LI? So if we look, OL, LI, LI. Permitted contents, flow content, it's pretty much anything. Permitted parents, UL, OL, or menu. That's it. Those are the only parents it could have. Menu, I've only seen UL and OL. LI being a descendant of those. What's menu? Oh, it's experimental. Because this specification is not stabilized, check the compatibility table for usage in various browsers. Compatibility table, and it tells us not supported, not supported, not supported. And if we go to can I use, and we look menu, toolbar context menu, cursors, elements, well supported, subset menu, summary, menu element, it's not coming up. So, don't use menu. So what have you learned so far? You've learned about document flow and block level elements and inline elements. You've learned about semantic HTML and that we need to use tags other than div all the time. Div is fine, don't use it all the time. Use something more specific if you can that has more meaning. This is the header area, this is the footer area, this is the main area. Okay? And we've also learned that H1 through H6 establishes a hierarchy importance of information on a page. So we use that for structuring, an outline of a page. And if you start looking into that a little bit, you'll come into using HTML sections and outlines. And there's this thing called the document outliner. Don't go down that road. Just stick with H1s and H6s. That's all like, maybe it would have been a good idea, never got enough adoption. I think we're going to delete it and not have it go anywhere. And even where they talk about that, there's a big warning. There are currently no known implementations of the outline algorithm in graphical browsers or assistive technology user agents, although the algorithm is implemented in other software such as conformance checkers. Therefore, the outline algorithm cannot be relied upon to convey document structure to users. Authors are advised to use heading rank H1 through H6 to convey document structure. Right? Because there's this entire theory of an outline algorithm that people came up with, and it was going to be implemented, but nobody implemented it, so now it's dying. So just stick with H1 through H6 if you ever come across articles and things. All right, so semantic HTML. We're going to learn about semantic HTML. But I think that should be another video because this one's already been long.